Compact crossovers and SUVs seem to be everywhere in today's market. Here's Mggs' take on this genre, the GS. It's priced at the level of a very small car of this kind and sized at the level of a very spacious one. Is it all too good to be true? It'll be interesting to see.
The one thing that's been carried over from the MG of old into the current era of Chinese ownership is lively driving dynamics, something we could really do with in a crossover segment that's full of cars which often tend to deliver a driving experience about as enjoyable as a weekend spent creosoting your mother-in-law's fence. This GS is different in that regard, and that's something that's immediately evident within the first few miles you spend behind the wheel. Although there is body roll, it's well controlled, and the electric steering feels well weighted and direct. True, ride and refinement could certainly be improved and need to be, but overall there are certainly areas where other brands could learn a thing or two from the job that the British development team have done here. The petrol engine beneath the bonnet is a 1.5 litre turbo unit that MG owners SAIC have co-developed with General Motors, and it's got about 25% more power than comparable rivals can offer at this price point. The 166 bhp output also means greater pulling capability. There's 250 newton meters of it, which means that if need be, this car's 1,750 kilo brake towing capability would be enough to enable it to lug along something like a small caravan. And that is a feat that few other entry-level petrol-powered crossovers of this kind could manage. Now, there is a slight price to pay for that in terms of running cost efficiency. Expect 46.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 139 grams per kilometre of CO2 with the manual model, or 45.5 mpg and 141 grams per kilometre if you go for the 7-speed DCT automatic. Light off-road work is possible if you're careful, but more relevantly in the urban jungle, this car's high-set driving position and good all-round visibility make it easy to manoeuvre. So, what do you think? The styling was overseen by Brit Anthony Williams-Kenny at MG's Design Centre in Longbridge, and it certainly fits with the fashionable feel that crossover customers will want. The sweeping shape and the careful curves do much to disguise the size of the car. At first glance, you might pigeonhole it as being quite compact, but get out the tape measure and you actually find that it's longer, wider and taller than something like a Nissan Qashqai. Yet, it manages to be so without appearing too big or bulky. Time to take a seat behind the wheel. Now, the first comment we ought to make here is that this cabin is a big improvement on anything else that MG has managed to date. There's no doubt that the brand has significantly narrowed the gap to the prevailing class standard. Even so, it is clear from the lack of soft-touch plastics, the mix of textures and the prevalence of buttons that this is the interior of a budget brand model. Time to take a seat in the rear, and this is an area which might very well sell you this car. To start with, the doors open wide enough to make it easy for a parent to reach in and fit a child seat. And once inside, you'll find yourself in one of the very largest rear cabins in the segment. Now, this GS has a longer wheelbase than you'll find in something like a Honda CR-V, so in terms of size, it's an absolute world away from the cramped quarters provided by the super mini-based crossovers that sell for the same kind of money as this MG. Finally, let's take a look in the boot. Raising the tailgate reveals an opening that only tapers slightly at the lower edges and has a sill that sits flush with the floor. Inside, the GS offers 483 litres of cargo room with the rear seats in place. So, how to summarise? Can an MG be any kind of SUV? Well, it appears so. What we've learned here is that if you're looking for a brand new family car, you want a crossover, you need spacious room for 5, but you also need to keep your spending within reasonable bounds, then this GS model certainly needs to be on your list of models to try. It may not be the kind of car you expected MG to make, but if you fit the buying demographic, it could well be the one that you actually need.